Hi, I'm Larissa from Beekeeping Made Simple, and let's talk about how to buy honeybees. I'm going to go over your two different choices, the pros and cons of each, what you definitely don't want to do, what I am going to be doing this year, and the different kinds of honeybees that there are, and the pros and cons of each of these different strains. You can buy your bees as a package, a nuke, or you can buy a fully established colony. A package of bees is a screened-in box. It's, about this big, not very large. There's about 10 to 12,000 young worker bees in there. There is one queen that is mated. She should be mated this year, very new and young, in a cage in the center of the bees in this package. And there will also be one very large can, and that will be full of sugar syrup. And there will be holes in the bottom of the can so that the bees can access the syrup and eat so they are not starving. The other thing you can buy is a nuke, which is short for a nucleus colony. And that is essentially half of a beehive. And when you use a Langstroth style beehive, you have these boxes, and inside the boxes you put frames. This is a 10 frame box. If you want your boxes to weigh a little bit less, then you can get an 8 frame box. But when you buy your nuke, it's usually going to have 3 to 5 frames. It's on average, what I've seen and what I've sold in the past is a small box that is the size of a regular 10 frame box, just half the width, and there are 5 of these frames inside. 3 of the frames have honeycomb drawn out, and they're full of baby bees in the 3 different stages, what we call brood, egg, larva, and pupa. And then you will have one newly mated queen that is walking around laying eggs, and the frames are covered in young worker bees. Then there's usually 2 frames of food, which would be the pollen and the nectar / honey. Sometimes people will sell a 3 frame nuke instead of a 5 frame. Either way, I just make sure that there's 3 frames of brood in there, and there should be 1 frame of honey, ideally. And these frames should be covered in bees, and it is totally fine to lift up that lid and peek inside and just check to see how heavily populated that box looks before you pay them and take that nuke home. And then your third option is to buy a colony from someone. This might be from someone that doesn't want to keep bees anymore and is looking to just get rid of a full hive. And that can really vary, but usually you're buying like 1 or 2 boxes, and there's going to be frames inside with bees and a queen. And she could be young or she could be older. This really varies in age, and it's up to you whether you want to go this route, but this is not a common route to go, and it can be difficult figuring out how healthy the hive is and how much it is worth when buying a full-size colony. Now, when you buy a nuke or a package, you are usually asked a couple questions. One is, do you want a marked queen? And that means you're going to have a queen with a paint marked on her back. Each year there's a different color, and the color will let you know what year she was born, and that can help beekeepers keep track of their queens, as well as if your bees were to swarm off and make their own queen, you would know, because now all of a sudden you have a queen without a paint on her back. But for the most part, people get marked queens to help them spot the queen easier. And this is a great way to go your first couple of years, but after that, I definitely recommend going with an unmarked queen, not only to save yourself, $8 or so, but because it's good to get to know finding your queen on your own. So if your bees do swarm, or you want to split hives, you want to try queen breeding, you know how to spot the queen without that bright paint marker on her back. The other option is people might ask you if you want the wings clipped. And this is more so common with packages of bees. When you get queens with their wings clipped, that prevents them from flying, and so can prevent your bees from swarming. It's not a foolproof way to prevent your bees from swarming, because your bees could potentially still leave without their queen, or the queen can still jump out and land on the ground, and then you just have a whole bunch of bees hanging out on the ground underneath your beehive. When this is recommended is usually if you are starting out with a top bar hive and the hive is brand new and empty, or a style beehive that is similar to top bar hives. For whatever reason, in a Langstroth style beehive, it is not as common for bees to swarm when you put a package in as it is in the top bar hives. And if you know a beekeeper that has some drawn out comb or some beeswax that you can put in there, then clipped wings isn't necessary, but you just, if your beehive is brand new and empty and does not smell like bees whatsoever, and there's nothing you can put in there from another person's beehive to make it smell like bees, you might want to get clipped wings for your queen. My first year, I started out with a top bar hive and my package took off, and I later found out that it is more common with top bar hives that your bees take off. We call it absconding when all the bees with the queen take off. Swarming is when some of the bees stay and some of the bees take off. With a nuke, it is not necessary to worry about your bees swarming off because there's brood and there's food and there's wax and there's honey, and it is very unlikely that your bees will abscond. They'd have to really hate it and there'd be a really big problem with the hive. Okay, so here are your two options. Which do you want? Well, the benefits to a package of bees is that you get them a lot earlier. Here in PA, I just ordered a package of bees and they said there will be a pickup in the middle of March and the end of March, and they have the exact date. Now, I did have a package of bees years ago get delayed, and that was because there was a big storm that prevented them from driving down south. Other than that, your package of bees has a very specific pickup date. That is when they are driving down south to pick up the bees and bring them up. And everything is scheduled and there's no questions about it. It's also a lot easier to transport, especially if you just have a car. Your package comes in it's a screened-in cage, bees can't get out, there's adequate ventilation. You can also have them shipped to you, so if there is nobody around and it is not possible for you to get a nuke or to go pick up your package of bees, you can have them shipped. I will talk a little bit later about having your bees shipped and the do's and don'ts of that. It is also the cheaper option. Now, the cheapest option is to just put some swarm traps out and to put your list at the fire department and the bee club as a swarm catcher or to do cutouts. But if you want to buy bees and make sure you have them for the spring, a package of bees is going to be your cheapest option. Now, as for the nuke, the pros of the nuke is that it is, I want to say foolproof, but it's a lot harder to make a mistake. When you get your package, your queen is in a cage, and you're going to have to either remove the cork and let the bees release the queen and hope that she's released once they have accepted her, or you're going to have to go in and release the queen. Sometimes there's issues and the bees swarm in the cage and you have to manually release her. Either way, there can be problems that arise when needing to release your queen out of the cage. And with a nuke, there is no caged queen. She is already moving around. You also have comb, you have food, you have baby bees. Like I said before, very small chance that your bees will swarm off. Your bees will be up and running and going. It's kind of like a package of bees is like getting this starter beehive, and you have to get it running from the ground up. A nuke is like you say to the beekeeper, okay, you start my beehive, you get it going, and then once they are up and running and growing and building, then pass it off to me and I will take care of it. So it's definitely the recommended way to go if it's your first or second year beekeeping. Nukes are also usually what the smaller local apiaries sell. And I can't stress enough, it doesn't matter the genetics or, you know, if you're talking about Russian bees versus German, Italian, Caucasian, that doesn't matter anywhere near as much as have these bees overwintered in your area? Do they deal with your climate and the stresses of your climate well? Is this coming from a local beekeeper who is successful and splitting hives and expanding their apiary in your area? And so when you buy a nuke, you're usually buying from a smaller local apiary who is successfully overwintering their bees year after year. So once you get your nuke, the bees will build way faster because they're already up and running. And if the weather is bad when you pick your nuke up, it's okay. You can, if it's in a wax box, you might want to put it under cover, you know, maybe like under your pop-up tent, or just put like a piece of plywood over it or something. You can put it down on the hive stand that your beehive is going to be on. You can just put it outside. The bees are okay for a couple days in your nuke box. You just want to put them into your full-size beehive within about a week or so, because you want to give them space. They should be really crammed and there shouldn't be a lot of room for them in this nuke box. So on to the cons of the package versus the nuke. Like I said with the nuke, you pick it up, it's bad weather, you just put it outside and they're okay for a couple days until you have good weather and you can transfer them to your beekeeping equipment. With a package, they're in this little box. And so if the weather is bad and you cannot take them home and put them into the beehive, you are going to have to be a little bit more careful. You want to keep them in a space that's ideally like a garage or an unfinished basement. You want it to be warm enough out that they are not freezing. You don't want it to be like in the 30s, but you don't want it to be so warm out, like over 65 degrees Fahrenheit. Even over 65 is usually about when they start to loosely cluster. So you want it to be under 65 degrees Fahrenheit so that the bees don't want to be flying around and are super active. And you also need to keep track of that can of syrup inside and give the package a little bit of a jiggle and try to tell if there's still syrup in there, and look to see if they're able to get syrup from the holes in the bottom. If not, you want to make syrup with sugar and water and put it in a spray bottle and continue to spray the package over the course of the time until you're able to put them in the beehive. You really don't want the bees in the package for more than a day or so. Other con to the package is usually these bees aren't local. They're being trucked up, which means they've been in the package for a while. They've been cooped up. They are stressed out, and you will have to make sure the queen is released and that she is okay and walking around the hive. With the nuke, you could wait a couple weeks before you even open it up, because your queen's already in there walking around. With the package of bees, once you put them into the hive, your queen's going to be in a cage, and you should check on it in about 4 days to make sure she's gotten out of her cage, or manually release her from the cage. The downside to a nuke is that it is more expensive. If you don't have a truck to transport your nuke, you're going to be putting it in a car, and that is not ideal. You can wrap it with a mosquito net, and usually they come in a box that has the entrance blocked off and just ventilation, but it's a little bit harder to transport. I would definitely recommend bringing that mosquito net just as a backup. The other place I was looking to buy nukes, they said usually available around April. So one of my students last year said that he ordered 2 packages, and he ordered a nuke from a local place, and the packages he got in April. And the nuke, I think he said it wasn't ready until like end of May or early June. And that's pretty late to be getting your bees, especially if this is your first year beekeeping, to be getting started in June. He said that the bees really just took a long time to get up and running from that point, and his packages did better. So there is that chance that your nuke is going to, the beekeeper you buy them from is going to be late having them ready, and then it could really put a damper on the whole year for your beekeeping. If you want to buy a nuke, one very important thing to consider is whether you are going to be putting your bees into deep boxes. If you are going to be using all medium-sized boxes, which just aren't as tall as deep boxes, and it's a really common way for people to keep bees when they want to keep the weight of their boxes low, you are going to have to find someone that sells bees in nuke boxes that are for medium frames. And the place in my local bee club specifically says that they sell bees on medium frames. So it's possible to find, but keep that in mind when deciding whether you're buying a nuke or a package. 2 more things. Do not get your bees shipped to you. If you can avoid it, avoid it. Even if you have to drive an hour and a half or something. If you do have to have them shipped, ask them how they're going to be shipped. If they're going to be dropped off at the post office for you to pick up, or what's going to happen. Because the big problem is, they're usually shipped overnight, but then if they're sitting in a mail carrier's truck and you get a few really cold days, they could freeze to death in that little package. It is very common for bees to arrive dead. And then other thing is, no matter where you buy your bees from, or if you get a package or a nuke, ask them if they treat for mites. If they haven't treated for mites yet, know that, so that you have a plan to treat for mites before, the big honey season, usually late spring when all the flowers are blooming. If they have treated for mites, then there's a good chance that you're not going to have to until the late summer, when the flowering season is coming to an end. All right, so then the final thing that some people will ask about and people talk about are strains of honeybees. You have Russian, German, Italian, Carniolan, Caucasian, Buckfast. They have different traits, and it really can vary. Just because you have Italian bees doesn't mean they're going to be bringing tons of food. But some people pay a lot of money for these specific kinds of bees, or they will pay a lot of money for a certain queen. The top thing is to look for bees that successfully dealt with your climate. And it is almost always better to buy local bees than to have bees shipped in, no matter what kind of traits they say that they're going to have. But overall, if people are giving you an option, or if you want to try it out, go for it, give it a go, see what happens. This is in general what they say the traits are for the different kinds of bees. So the Russian bees aren't known for being the calmest. They aren't as gentle, but their spring buildup is okay, but they overwinter very well, and they are known for dealing with varroa mites much better, because they've been dealing with varroa mites in their area for much longer than European honeybees. Then you have the Italian honeybees, which are usually very calm and have great spring buildup, and they are the typical yellow honeybee, and the ones that they bred in Hawaii. They were very common when I was beekeeping in Hawaii. They are fairly good. They're known to be okay at overwintering, and they're known for being very calm but very good honey producers. However, the downside to these honeybees is that their varroa mite resistance is okay, and they are known for their robbing tendencies. So not so great on that end. German bees, just like the Russian bees, are very good with overwintering. They are okay with honey and spring buildup, and they say that they are not as calm as Italian bees, but I found in Hawaii we pretty much just had the German and Italian bees, and I found them both to be equally very calm in their demeanor. Then you have the Carniolan honeybees, and they really, in almost every area, are known for being really great spring buildup, great for overwintering, very calm. They just have really high swarming tendencies. And then the Caucasian honeybees, they are very calm bees, but they have a very low spring buildup, and they aren't known for bringing in a lot of honey. But again, even if people claim to be breeding a certain kind of bee, unless they are artificially inseminating them, there's a very low chance that they are actually that strain, but a good combination of strains. And when the queen bee goes out to mate, she is mating with a lot of drones. She is not just mating with one. Now it's the first week of January, and I today put in an order for 1 package of bees at a local bee company. Now it's not their bees, it's, they're definitely going to one of the southern states and picking up a truckload of bees and distributing them. It's a really big source of income for some of these local apiaries, and that's fine. I've chose my pickup day to be March 29th, and then I'm also going to order 2 nukes. I didn't want to just order nukes because I don't know these local apiaries since I am new here. We just moved to Pennsylvania 2 months ago. and I am not too familiar with these places. I joined the local bee club, and they had a couple people say that they were selling bees. One person just sells bees on medium frames, and the other person said that they sell bees in regular nuke boxes, 5 frame. It's just, it scared me a little bit because they said should be available in April. And if they're not available in April and we don't get bees till May, that's pretty late to be getting started in the beekeeping season. So I want to have a package of bees as a backup. The local bee association, their meeting is in a couple weeks, and they are having the people, whoever wants to, that sells package of bees in the area, to come talk at the club and take orders. So I was going to wait until then to do this. I did a live chat where we talked about selling bees, and the link to it is in this video description. And a lot of people already said that they bought their bees. But I really found that January is a decent time to buy bees. You don't have to worry about putting in orders in December or anything. As far as pricing is concerned, the package of bees I ordered was $135, I think, and they sell their nukes, their 5-frame nukes, for $225. The other people didn't mention what they're selling their bees for, but the other people around the country that put in their pricing, it's about $200, $200 to $250 for a nuke, and you're looking at about $150 for a package of bees. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe and then hit the bell icon if you want to be notified about my next videos and when I go live, which is on the first Friday of the month. If you have ordered a package of bees this spring, please put in the comments how much you paid for it and your location. And if there's anything else I forgot about the pros and cons of buying nukes versus packages, please share with everyone. See you next time. Bye. If you're going to be getting started keeping bees within the next year, download my free guide to 7 steps to getting started keeping bees at beekeepingmadesimple.com. Blank shot style beehive. Oops.